If you don't know about DEI, let me remind you what it stands for. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are organizational frameworks that seek to promote the fair treatment and full participation of all people, particularly groups who have historically been underrepresented or subject to discrimination based on identity or disability. I'm bringing this up because this morning, Friday morning, there was an article in Newsweek magazine. It was written by a Miss Kira Davis, K-I-R-A. If I pronounced her name wrong, Miss Davis, I apologize. Kira Davis is the author of, quote, Drawing Lines, Why Conservatives Must Begin to Battle Fiercely in the Arena of Ideas. She has a problem with Georgia District Attorney Fani Willis, and she's blaming it on DEI hiring. Now, if you don't know Georgia's District Attorney Fani Willis, if you don't know anything about her, she's the woman overseeing the Georgia case where former President Donald Trump has been charged with 13 criminal counts attempting to overturn the 2020 election results. Remember that? Well, that Fani Willis recently took the stand in her own defense this week. Why? Because she hired Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade, who, by the way, she was having an affair with. Okay, she was dating him. She allegedly overpaid Wade to the tune of $650,000. As a result, Trump's attorneys are trying to have Willis, Wade, and the entire case against them dismissed. Now pause the screen right there, please. Stay right there, y'all. I want you to listen to this. Before I get into this any further, let's get this out the way. What would an affair have to do with a 2020 election case? Probably nothing. So what's the big picture here? The big picture here is that if Trump and his team is successful in getting them removed and somebody new has to get on the case, that takes time. Because of the delays, it buys more time for him to ultimately get to the presidency. And if he wins the presidential election and becomes president of the United States again, these are cases he can dismiss because you're not going to indict a sitting president. But I digress, because I need to get back to the more important point that I want to make, which is the issue of DEI. Why is DEI under attack here? In Kira Davis's opinion, she wrote, quote, listen to this. As a Black woman and a working professional, I've never been a huge fan of affirmative action. The recent rise of critical race theory and diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives has only bolstered my resistance. She continues, while it may seem necessary to some in order to right the wrongs of the past, I can sum up why these measures are an unmitigated disaster for hardworking Black Americans in 2 words. Fani Willis. That's what she said. This woman should be ashamed of herself. Because no matter what Fani Willis may have done wrong, it has absolutely nothing to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion. It has absolutely nothing to do with DEI. The office that she has, no one is disputing that she's qualified for it. You may not like her and her personal choices, having a relationship with a contemporary. I get that part. But to sit up there and to say it's DEI, it's a DEI issue, just because she's in her position is utterly ridiculous. Because when you bring that into the equation, you're questioning her qualifications for her job. Just like somebody could easily question your qualifications for your job at Newsweek, assuming you work there, as opposed to freelancing or just writing an editorial that they published. What the hell is that about? We've got to guard against this kind of stuff. We've got to monitor our stuff, because here's the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen. When we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, you're talking about equal opportunities. That's what you're ultimately in pursuit of. You're not talking about giving somebody anything other than an opportunity. Let them sit in front of your face. Let them show you their qualifications. Give them an opportunity to put their resumes in front of you, their qualifications in front of you, and you make a fair, neutral judgment on their qualifications as opposed to making the wrong assumptions. Kira Davis, respectfully, Fani Willis isn't the problem here, it's you. Because you're making the assumption that whatever transgression she may have committed or whatever problem she may have created or whatever roadblocks or impediments she may have presented for her own self, particularly in this case against the present ex-president, you're acting as if her qualifications are being brought into question, when the only thing being brought into the question is whether or not they should be overseeing this case against the president because of whatever transgressions they may have committed on a personal level with what would be deemed by some to be an inappropriate relationship. Never mind whether or not the White House was influencing them in any way. One has nothing to do with DEI. But that's where you took it, Ms. Davis. By the way, a black woman accusing Fannie Willis of not being polished and classy and not being able to remain even keeled while responding to an uncomfortable barrage of questions on the witness stand. So she had an attitude. She didn't like being barraged with questions the way that she was. And so that attitude came out in her. And because of that, that compromises her qualifications? It makes no sense, Ms. Davis. It makes no sense. No sense whatsoever. You need to stop. Kerry Davis also states that Fannie Willis's foul demeanor and childish expressions only serve to magnify the grotesque consequences diversity hiring has for black women, black America in general. So in other words, what you're saying, Miss Davis, is that a black woman with an attitude, one black woman with an attitude, cast aspersions on a black race, which you are a part of. You ain't never had any attitude? You ain't never cursed anybody out? You never did anything, huh? Nothing at all. Stop. Not only are you embarrassing yourself, you're disrespecting our community by implying such things based on such frivolous evidence. There's plenty of white people with attitude, and they convey that in very demonstrative and bombastic ways at times. I didn't hear you talking about them. I could say something far more fierce, but I won't. I'll just respectfully ask you to stop castigating a community because of one person who, by the way, I'm reminding you, his qualifications are not in question here. Not ever. Just whether or not she should be on this case.